spooky friends, and welcome to another episode of Storytime with the Scariest Podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, and this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And this episode is, well, all Storytime episodes are dedicated to reading your homegrown horrors.
Indeed. I'm very excited. I love doing homegrown horror episodes.
Why don't you tell us what homegrown horrors are?
I knew you were going to do it to me. Homegrown horrors are the ghost stories, paranormal activity, spiritual, sleep paralysis, night terror, anything creepy that you have or you've heard from friends or family that you would like to share with us. We would certainly like to hear, and we will read on the episode if you say we are allowed to, and we read them on the Storytime episodes. And if you would like to share a story with us, Robin, where can they share their stories to?
So you can go to our website, scariest.com. You can go to the Contact Us page, fill out all that information, put your story in there, and it'll send it to us. And then you can also just email us directly at storytime@scariest.com. Don't forget, we do have other social media outlets that you can send things to. So facebooks.com/scariestpodcast. We have Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. All our social media links are also on our website, so you can head on over to scariest.com.
This is true. You did my part a lot better than I did your part, so it's pretty funny. I also want to give a shout out to all the folks watching us live right now, because we do record the Storytime episodes live every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time and 9:30 for the Eastern folks. If you have another time zone, you're going to have to Google it, because I don't know. But we appreciate it. Folks show up. We read the stories. They let us know what they thought. We chit-chat. We have a pretty normal audience that we like to see, and it's really, really fun to interact with you folks.
Yeah.
Plus, at the end, we have a little treat, which is referenced in one of our emails tonight. Do not forget, we are doing a giveaway right now. If you comment on any of our episodes, postings, or however you want to call it that, typically Facebook is where you can go. You can also do Twitter. You can also do Instagram, and at one of your friends, and then share it if you are able to. You will get an entry into the giveaway. You can do it with every episode we post between now and I'm pretty sure September 17th was the date that we picked.
Yes, and it works for Instagram, Twitter, like retweeting or sharing to your story, things like that.
Sharing with friends is the goal of this, and us giving you guys some free merch is also the goal here, because we sincerely appreciate when you folks tell your friends about it, because that's how we grow. And we've grown because of that, and we want to make sure that we're giving people credit where credit is due. And some of you folks support us in so many ways, it's insane, and we want just to make sure that we have something that's really in the wheelhouse of what the Spooky Friends have done to support us. So without further ado, I think we're going to jump into the first story.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay.
I am super excited. Shout out to Turn the Page 08, who just subscribed on Twitch with their Amazon Prime subscription. Robin, tell folks how they can do that.
So, if you folks have an Amazon Prime subscription, or maybe you don't, if you don't, you can head on over to scariest.com, scroll down to the bottom, and there is a link. You can actually sign up for 30 free days of Amazon Prime, and you can connect your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, which is free. And Amazon gives you free stuff that you can do with Twitch Prime, including subscribing to any of your favorite channels once every 30 days.
Yeah, and that subscription gives that channel $5 reduce. So essentially, you can basically link these accounts and then give us $5 to Jeff Bezos and money, which we always appreciate. Shout out to Turn the Page 08 one more time for doing that, like, at the perfect time, so we could say that. Also, shout out to Equin, who just subscribed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's really awesome. And it was another Twitch Prime. Take that money out of Jeff Bezos' pocket. Let's do it together.
Okay. All right. So this first story we're going to read tonight is from Aries, and the title was Winner, Winner, Chicken Dinner. I don't know if that's a PUBG reference.
No, you're going to get to it.
Oh, it's
yeah, because I saw the beginning of it.
All right. Okay. So, hello.
Hello.
So I won a marble game thing on last night's stream. Oh, I see what you're saying.
There you
go. But I also have a short, funny story. It's not anything super insane, but it's something small and I consider funny. I'm just going to take a little second to tell you guys, if it's your first time joining us on the stream, that at the end of the streams, we play this game called Marbles on Stream, and we do 2 races. Winners of each race get a free Scary-ish sticker, coaster, or something that we have that I mail out to you. So stick around to the end and be a part of a free...
Sticker round. So you folks know, and I think this is the first time we're going to let this go out on the podcast version. Marbles on Stream is something where you jump into our Twitch channel, which is totally free to jump into. You type in a couple things. One is like !play, and you get a marble that is attached to your username, and if it races down this course and finishes first, that's how you win. So it's super interactive. It's very easy to do. Everyone has a good time, and we give away some free stuff. So For those of you who have never watched the live stream and have kind of been on the fence about it, I think you should. I think you'll have a good time. And for the folks that are doing it for the first time tonight, stick around like Robin said, because it's going to be a good time. So I will let you get back to it.
Cool. The email continues. Also, sorry to Adam's mom for the poor grammar and such if she's the one reading this, and thank you for what you do. Aw, shout out to Scary Mom. She does a lot.
She does.
Anyways, so my mom fixes houses and sells them for a living. In one of the houses, there were bees, so my mom harvested the honey and got rid of the bees because it's illegal to have them within city limits. She dropped off a gallon-sized container of honey at home and told me to put it away while she left for work again. I'm just curious how you get rid of bees. Because if they're not allowed in city limits, what do? You just shoo them out of city limits?
No,
or?
I think you have like a beekeeper come and get them, or you try and get them to a colony in
All right.
some way, shape, or form. Or you could murder them, which is really not good because they're super endangered, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. After she left, I lazily put the honey in the second to lowest shelf in a kitchen cabinet, sideways. So it all slowly spilled out. Poor honey.
Sucks.
Yeah, especially like honey from directly from the source, that's rough.
It's going to be rough to clean up. That's all I can tell you.
That's how you get ants. By the time I noticed, it was all over the floor and on the lowest shelf as well. I quickly picked it up, but at that exact moment after picking it up, my siblings started fighting and I had to go check on them. So I put it down right side up in the middle of the honey puddle and left to deal with my siblings, with plans of coming back to it before my mom came home and noticed. Unfortunately, my mom came in and noticed while I was dealing with my siblings. When she saw the mess, she was in shock and was asking me what happened and examining the fact that the honey container did not have any holes. I replied with, I don't know, as in, I'm not sure how to explain my ignorance to you.
That's hilarious.
But before I could begin to explain to her, she came up with her own theory. Ghosts. She started telling me about the ghost in her house and how it must have been her. She says she's sure it was her and that it just confirmed that she's there. I honestly didn't want to get in trouble, so I agreed and said, yeah, it was probably that, a ghost. She did this. And I avoided all consequences other than having to clean up the puddle of honey. However, because I'm a piece of shit, I forgot to clean the back of the shelf I had put the honey in, and that the honey had oozed all out of, and only cleaned the floor and lower shelf. I thought I'd finished, and it was so late and I was so tired. In the morning, my mom woke me up and hysterically yelled that it was definitely a ghost because honey was there again. That's all so over the funny. Floor. I was so confused, but when I saw it, I realized it was just me being a dumbass. Then she started telling me it was because of my dad. My parents were going through a divorce at the time, and all about how this ghost woman hated men. So I quietly listened to her and nodded and waited for her to forget about it. And to this day, this is like 6 years ago, she still tells everyone this story, and I just sit there and nod and agree. I'm probably the worst daughter ever, but knowing how expensive honey is and how angry my mom would be if she knew, I'll take this story to my grave and whatever time in hell this means for me. Anyways, that's it for my story. Hopefully it makes it to the podcast. She'll never listen, but thanks for taking the time to read this, Aries. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think it's so freaking funny.
It's hilarious, but the thing is like you have to at some point in your life tell your mom the true story because it's so damn funny.
Deathbed.
When you finally drop the bomb of like, that's not really what happened, and they've told the story 100 times. I've done that maybe once or twice in my life, and it is just the most hilarious thing where someone just looks at you like, what do you mean that's not the true story? You got to do it. Just saying. That's an amazing story. Thank you so much for sending that in. Awesome. So I'm going to move on into my first email of the show. And its subject is, are you ready? And then the monkey emoji with the monkey closing its eyes.
I don't know if that's a good sign or
Let's
not.
go with no and just close this, actually. I'm not ready for this.
Okay.
So actually it starts out like this.
I don't think you're ready for this, Jelly.
I knew you were going to fucking do it. All right. It starts out like this. Hey, friends.
Hello.
Hello. That means you too, friends. So you should all yell hello wherever you're at right now. I'm Jess, and I live in good old Southern California. My cousin just recently showed me your podcast, and I think it's great. Thank you so much. I live for everything scary and everything funny, so you two are perfect. I have a couple of stories of my own to share. Hope they are up to par. First story I'll share was when I was about 23 or 24. My oldest, then only child, Lily, was around 3 or 4 years old. We were living in an apartment building with a good friend of mine, his wife, and 2 other children. Lily shared a room with their oldest daughter, who was the same age. After about 2 days already living there, the nights got pretty hectic. Every night at 1 a.m., in parentheses, guess that's morning, Lily would start screaming, and I mean screaming. Every night it was the same. I'd rush into her room, turn on the light, and grab her. She would be stiff as a board, eyes shut tight, just screaming. Nothing me or the roomies could do to calm her down. She wouldn't open her eyes and would scream for a good 15 to 20 minutes.
How do you let her scream for 15 or 20 minutes?
I mean,
like
it's
no
a
one
baby.
would stop. Oh.
She rushes in there, she picks her up. What is she supposed to do? Hit this stop crying switch? Like, that's just not how it works.
That sucks.
When your child is screaming nonstop, it's a very long time. But then, poof, she'd stop and look at me, and I'd hold her as she fell asleep. She would then sleep with me in my bed, and the next morning I'd ask what happened or why she was scared, and she would say she didn't know. Okay, so this isn't a baby. This is 3 or 4. I'm mistaken. I forgot that. So yeah, this kid was just having night terrors and was freaking the fuck out for 15 to 20 minutes. And then in the morning, she would know. When nighttime came around again, she insisted sleeping in her room like a big girl, so I'd let her. We would check for monsters and everything, and she'd be okay.
That's more brave than I would be.
Yeah, I would not. I'd be like, I'm a big kid, but I am sleeping in your bed. Sorry.
Now all I have is the I'm a big kid now.
That's funny.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I got you.
Pull-ups.
So, 1 a.m. comes around, and it would repeat. This continued until we moved out 2 weeks later, and her nights were normal again. But get this. I showed her a picture of the little girl she used to share a room with in that home when she was about 7, and she said to me, "Oh, I remember we shared bunk beds in the room when the man used to stand in the corner and stare at me." It freaked me out. I hugged her tight and got teary-eyed. Holy shit, that's creepy.
That's super creepy. And so that's why she was screaming her head off.
But when she would wake up in the morning, she couldn't remember why she was screaming. And then like 4 years later, 3 or 4 years later, she's like, "Oh, do you remember this girl you used to share a room with?" She's like, "Oh yeah, it was when that creepy dude used to stand in the corner and stare at me." Like, holy shit.
So creepy. I can't imagine my child saying something like that to me because it's just nightmare fuel.
Yeah, I'd be like, "You need to tell me the rest of these things that you've been keeping from me right now." All right, it goes on to say, this story is one that my fiance's mother shared with me that takes place in Mexico when she was a little girl, maybe middle school aged. She told me she came upon a Ouija board. Why? And her and a couple of friends decided to play at school. This certainly sounds like Veronica. Well, after they played, she grabbed the board and her things and walked home. She said at night she would hear someone calling her name and she would see shadows walking around her home. On a daily basis, she had this heaviness she could feel like someone was piggyback riding. She felt watched, and the eerie feeling she had would not leave. She brought it all up to her mother, who became enraged and told her she needed to get rid of the Ouija board at once and pray for the Lord to help her. She threw it away and the next morning found it on her bed. She tried to break it and it would not break. Finally, she decided to set it on fire and felt this would definitely rid her of these problems, but she said as she watched the fire grow, the board would not burn. She learned the only way one can truly get rid of the board and be freed of all the demonic occurrences would be only if she gifted it to someone who asked for the board.
That's like some paranormal activity shit.
Yeah, it straight up is. It goes on to say, insanely enough, the next day at school, another little girl asked her for it. Reluctant, but also feeling there was no other way, she asked her if she was sure, and she said yes, so she gave it to her. All the craziness stopped. She would notice that the little girl who asked for it would come to school tired with dark circles around her eyes. She wouldn't hang out with them anymore. She wouldn't eat lunch, just kind of in her own little world. My fiance's mom said one day they were walking out of class and she saw the little girl's hair move as if someone yanked it to the left and the girl let out a scream.
No way.
She put her head down and started crying as she ran away. Mother-in-law got the courage to come up to her after school and ask what was going on with her, and she told her since she played alone at home, something is with her and wants her all to itself. Wouldn't let her talk to anyone, wouldn't let her eat. She had to be alone in the dark in her room, and she said that's when it would show itself. She cried to my mother-in-law and said she needed help. She was sorry and she needed help, then got wide-eyed and said, "I can't talk to you, I have to go," and turned around and left. She didn't come back to school after that, and my mother-in-law, I have fucking cold chills right now.
Oh my gosh, look at your arm.
She didn't come back to school after that, and my mother-in-law was later informed that the little girl committed suicide. I still get goosebumps when I think of this story. The paranormal has been in my life throughout my life, and I don't really know why, but I have quite a few stories. My month of non-stop sleep paralysis is an intense one for sure. Please let me know if you'd like me to share with you. You guys are awesome. Thanks for allowing me to share. Stay creepy. Holy shit. That was intense. I was like waiting for the good thing to end where it's like, oh, this little girl's going to get help. This is real. Oh, no, that didn't happen. Dang. That's
Yeah.
super intense. I think this just goes to illustrate whether or not you believe in any of this shit, just don't mess around with Ouija boards.
Yeah,
Straight up.
I'm a big no Ouija board person.
Either they're real or they're not. In either case, just don't mess around with them and you'll be fine. So that's what it comes down to, because that is terrifying and haunting. And I understand why, as a older person, you're sharing that story, because it's like, yeah, just don't touch those goddamn things. So solid
Cool.
stuff.
So this next one, so it's titled The Man in the Hat and the Woman on Fire. Hello, spooky friends.
Hello.
Hello.
We all assume Katniss Everdeen's going to have a part in this. So
My name is Ed, he or him, pronouns, and I've been a listener from Spotify for a few months now. You guys really help make my work days fly by. I also travel a lot for my hobby, and it's great to have some friends to listen to on long drives. Awesome.
sorry. I was taking a sip and I was also looking over in the stream chat because Lunaman says, "This is my story. I'm screaming."
Anyway, I wanted to write you guys to tell you about some of the creepy and odd things I experienced as a child, 2 in particular. Feel free to read them on the podcast, and feel free to divide them up if they're too long. We're going to read them all right now. I need to preface this first story with some info about where my family and I used to live when I was young. The house I grew up in had been pretty much built from scratch by my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles. It takes a village, I hear. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly. It takes a village to make me look dope. Sorry.
Oh!
That's from Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Oh
with,
my gosh,
Andy
that
Samberg
movie
and
is
the
so
Lonely
bad.
Island guys.
Okay,
I
so
fucking love that movie.
anyway, before my parents owned it, it had caught fire and pretty much burned completely down. So my parents basically rebuilt the whole thing. That's cool. That takes a lot of work.
Takes a village.
Anyway, as a child, I never felt anything evil or negative in the house. But I'd have some weird experiences every now and then, such as things disappearing and never reappearing, doors that were closed being opened, etc. One night, I remember I was dreaming and I heard somebody screaming in my dream so loudly that I woke up. Except when I did wake up, the screaming didn't stop. It was like when your alarm clock goes off, so your brain incorporates that sound into your dream. I remember looking at my bedroom door, which was closed, and seeing a woman run through it. She ran across my room to my desk, leaned over onto it like she was resting after running, and then she burned up and disappeared.
What the fuck?
That's crazy. That's like something out of Supernatural.
Right.
It wasn't like she caught fire, but as she stood there holding my desk, I just saw her form start to break away and disappear, almost like she was turning to ash and floating away. I'm going to say she was in the snap.
Wow.
That's not what was in the email, but
You're insinuating here that I shouldn't say you're insinuating. You're saying that this person was actually from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, somehow crossed over into our world, time traveled to the time when this takes place, ran into her room or his room, their room, and got snapped out of existence.
multiverses colliding.
Wow. That is some theorizing for sure.
Okay. I was a very imaginative and jumpy kid, so I figured it'd just been a weird dream or something until it happened again the next night. Every night or so for the next few months, I'd have the same thing happen. I'd hear a scream of some kind in my dream and then wake up to the same vision of a woman running into my room, leaning over my desk, and then burning away. I eventually asked my parents if anybody had died in the fire that burned down the house. I didn't even think about that.
Wow.
Before we lived there, but they told me they didn't know and hadn't thought to ask when they bought the place. I've tried doing some research, but I can't seem to find anything about the fire in the news from that time, so I'm not sure what I actually saw.
I'm going to go ahead and guess someone did die in that fire, because
Yeah.
this definitely seems like one of those scenarios where it's like something traumatic, like scarred the place where it took place. Now it's just repeating.
Right, considering it keeps happening over and over, yeah. Eventually, we rearranged the furniture in my room so my bed wasn't facing the door, and the nightly visits stopped. We moved away when I was in high school after the house got flooded in a hurricane, and I never told my parents about the experiences until I got much older. My second experience is much shorter, but it also took place in my childhood home. When I was little, I used to be terrified to sleep alone at night, and so I'd ask my mom to stay in my bed with me until I fell asleep. One night, I had just fallen asleep and I woke up as my mom was leaving my bed to go to her room. I wanted to say something, but I couldn't move. As an adult, I understand it was probably sleep paralysis, but at the time, I didn't know what was going on. All I knew was that my mom was leaving me and I couldn't move, but I was awake.
That's a terrible feeling.
As a kid, where you're like, I have no idea what's going on.
How terrifying sleep paralysis is, to see like your form of protection walking away from you.
Right.
That's just terrifying.
And you're just left there. So as my mom walks past my line of sight and out the door, I can see past her to the wall on the other side of the room. That doesn't sound good. I just feel like you're going to see something there. Normally, I had a chair on that side of the room that faced the bed. As I look across the room, still frozen, I see a man sitting in the chair. No.
I wonder if it's the same man that was staring at our earlier person.
He didn't have any details to him. It looked like the black silhouette of a man wearing a trench coat and a hat, and he was just sitting there with his legs crossed. He was completely black, like a shadow, but definitely three-dimensional. I looked at him for what felt like a few minutes, but was probably only a few seconds. He seemed to react to me when I saw him as if he realized I could see him, then he disappeared. Do you ever think that ghosts kind of like, they do whatever, and then when they realize like that, where they realize someone notices them and can see them, they're like, oh shit.
Yeah, I do. I feel like they're so used to not being seen that sometimes when whatever happens where someone sees them, they're like, oh shit, can they see me? I gotta go. And they leave with enough time where people will just think you're crazy if you try and tell them, like, I saw a ghost. Because if you hang out for way too long, like if the ghost's just not paying any damn attention at all, and a bunch of people see it, then all of a sudden it's something that, you know, we're going to bring up as a topic, 'cause there's a bunch of eyewitness accounts of the same ghost over and over.
Right.
So
it's kind of like, I guess kind of like Odd Thomas maybe, where he has to pretend that he doesn't see the things around him.
I guess.
But like, I'm just imagining ghosts that way.
I think you just want to talk about Odd Thomas because it's a really good movie. I do like Odd Thomas.
I cry at the end every time.
Way to make people understand that it's a sad ending.
Oh shit, sorry.
You spoil literally everything.
Yeah. Okay, you know what?
Don't spoil it.
Odd Thomas is so old now that if you haven't watched it by now, it's on Netflix. It's been on Netflix. If you haven't watched it by now, then...
Odd Thomas is so old. Odd Thomas is not alive anymore.
Oh.
Which is very sad. It was Antoine Yelchin. I think that's how you say his name. The guy who played Odd Thomas. He also played Kyle Reese. No, I was going with Kyle Reese in Terminator Salvation. And he was, what's his face in Star Trek?
Yeah.
The Russian one.
The
Russian whiz kid. I always forget his name.
Anyway, okay. So, looking back, I'm not sure why I wasn't afraid, but I just felt a sense of safety. It was almost as if the shadow man was there to watch over me or something. My mother had a younger brother, my uncle, who died before I was born, and my entire life she's always told me that he and I are similar. Similar. There's not even an F in there.
Just try that whole thing again. Let's do another take from the top.
Okay. My mother had a younger brother, my uncle, who died before I was born, and my entire life she's always told me that he and I are similar.
What? That's crazy.
You're such a dick.
I'm leaving both of those in the episode, by the way.
I have no way of knowing this, but I like to think that the man was my uncle keeping an eye on me as a child. Those are some of my stories. I have a few more paranormal/supernatural experiences from my childhood, so I'll type them up and send them to you if you'd like. I also have some very scary stories from when I was in high school and had to deal with days of sleep deprivation due to medication I was taking. Let me know if you'd like to hear any of my other stories, and I'd love to send them in. Thanks for always making my days better and for being there when I'm feeling lonely. I have a number of mental health problems, and your podcast helps me escape for an hour or so when things start to get to be too much. Keep on creeping on, Ed. Thank you so much for sending that in. And
sincerely, which is sincerely and seriously on top of each other.
And we're glad we can be there and create a community for you to kind of hang out with.
Yeah, and realistically, the community has created itself because of folks like you who are open and accepting and currently watching, which is super awesome.
Yes.
So it's a great story, both of them. Send us the other ones. We definitely want to hear them whenever you have time to sit down and write them. Because I know a lot of times we were like, yeah, I'll just knock that out really fast. And it's a lot harder than you'd think. So awesome.
Cool.
Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to move on into my second and final email of the show. The subject is a few scary stories. And it goes like this. Hi. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Clarice. Clariz.
Hello, Clarice.
I knew you were going to fucking do it. And I live in San Diego. I recently discovered your podcast while searching for scary ghost stories. In parentheses, sometimes I like to listen to scary stories to wake myself up at work. LOL. Anyways, I have a few ghost stories I can share with you. I'm Filipino and was born in the Philippines. Born and raised in the Philippines. I think that all Filipinos have a really strong third eye just because almost everyone has encountered some type of paranormal.
I feel like a lot of Asians do.
You think so?
Because my family does too. And they all have these feelings or they've had visions and things like that of people telling them.
Like when your mom messaged you and she's like, hey, I had a bad dream about you in the ocean. Don't go near water.
Oh, yeah,
and it's
I'm
like,
about
we're
to
T-minus
fly.
48 hours from flying over an ocean to go to Japan. Thanks for that.
There was one I think I told you about where my aunt got visited by her friend that had died, telling her, don't take this route to work or wherever she was going. And the next day, not to do that the next day. And so the next day she didn't take that route, and she found out that there was a car accident that happened on that route.
Dang, bro.
Yeah, so
that's intense.
So I think I don't know, my family has that too.
We agree with your sentiment.
Yes.
It's a Asian thing, probably not just a Filipino thing. All right, first story. When my family and I moved to our new house in San Diego, in parentheses, we're still in that same house, by the way, my older sister had her own room while my sister and I were sharing a room. For 2 weeks straight, my older sister would ask us to sleep in her room with the lights on.
Something bad happened.
Right? Years later, my older sister told me that she asked us to sleep in her room because we kept seeing a man wearing all white, kind of like the KKK outfit, staring at her. Eek. That is super scary.
Yeah, that's super duper scary.
Shout out to Sacred Infinity, who just resubscribed for the 5th month. Shout out to Sacred Infinity. Happy fucking birthday, bro.
Happy birthday.
Love you. Miss you. Hope we see you soon. The message was, why, hello, the best friends. Smiley face. Thank you for joining us. Seriously, happy birthday. I hope you have a million other things planned and you're just popping in to say hi.
Yes.
Thank you.
Brittany takes you out for a delicious dinner.
Seriously, if you were here, we'd be doing it. Just saying. Seriously.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Second story. My sisters, I, and a couple of our friends watched The Grudge 2 movie at the theater one night. We hate watching scary movies because we would be so scared for weeks. Anyways, at the end of the night, I was so scared that my little sister and I slept in my older sister's room with the lights on. Of course, I couldn't sleep and I was wide awake. All of a sudden, I heard a sound kind of like someone's tapping on my sister's computer keyboard. I knew it sounded odd.
That's creepy.
I was getting scared and started sweating, and occasionally I would look to see if anybody was there, but each time I looked, the sound would stop. About 3 to 4 minutes later, it would happen again. This went on and on throughout the night until I covered my ears and forced myself to sleep. A few years later, we decided to donate that computer and got a new Apple desktop, in parentheses, upgrade. Woo! My sister then told me that she's been wanting to get rid of that computer because every night she would hear someone lightly tapping the keyboard.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, holy shit. All right.
Is it a mechanical keyboard? Because that's way more annoying.
They are very, very loud.
Yeah.
It's so funny because Robin has a Black Widow, and I think it's like the white version of a Black Widow, but it's newer. Shout out to Ulri for the gift card. Appreciate you. When we're typing up our scripts for
it's
the
just
live,
like it's war of the keyboards.
Furious clicking.
Because sometimes I'll make fun of Adam, and then he'll make fun of me, and so I just type louder.
We're sarcastically typing louder and louder and louder back at each other. So, yeah, I understand that noise very, very well. If we were both in the bedroom sleeping and there was no one else in the house and I heard tapping coming from this room, I would like, boarding that room up tomorrow and setting it on fire, not going in there. All right, third story. When I was in senior year in high school, I was doing my math homework in our kitchen living room at around 5 or 6 p.m. It was fairly early when it started to get dark. My mom was in her room and my little sister was showering at that time. I turned on our TV, but lowered the volume all the way down to almost it being white noise.
What?
I think it's just to have something on in the background so it doesn't feel so quiet.
Okay.
So I totally understand that. As I was about to continue doing my homework, I heard a growl that was coming from our formal living room. To give you an idea of the layout, the kitchen living room is across our kitchen, and next to it to the right is our formal living room.
All right.
After hearing that growl, I thought, is there a dog outside? In parentheses, we don't have pets, FYI. Then I started thinking, maybe it's my neighbor's dog, but this growl isn't like a dog's growl. Imagine a paranormal activity growl. Uh-oh. I started to get scared because I didn't know where the growl was coming from, so I just ignored it and continued doing my homework.
I'm just imagining a growl coming from something a lot larger, maybe tall, like coming from a higher area than just a regular dog would be.
I know that it says Paranormal Activity growl, but because The Grudge was referenced, all I can hear is that goddamn Grudge noise. Yeah, that sort of thing going on. We don't want to do it for... I wish I could just loop that for 10 minutes, but I'm not going to do that to you folks. Then 5 minutes later, the growl got closer and louder. I felt so scared and flushed that I started to move slow, closing my textbook, and started to stand up and off my chair. Then when I thought that wasn't a dog, that's definitely inside the house, I ran to my room. I didn't tell my family about this because I didn't want to scare my sisters about what I heard. Then a couple of years later, my older sister comes up to me and asked, "Hey, want to hear something scary?"
Oh my goodness.
And I told her no.
You love everything that starts with "hey."
Yeah.
You want to hear something scary.
I told her no, but she told me anyways. She said that there was one night she couldn't sleep at all. Instead of laying down on her bed, she decided she wanted to watch TV at 1 a.m. while everyone was asleep. She said the only light she had was the TV and had the volume really low. As she was watching, she heard a growl that was coming from the living room. She heard it so clearly that she ran and forgot to turn off the TV. After hearing her telling me the story, I had goosebumps, and I just wanted to cry because that shit really scared the hell out of me. After it happened, I would have my dad or mom or one of my sisters stay with me in the kitchen if I was doing homework or washing the dishes. Also, I had a friend in high school that told me she heard a growl in our living room when she was getting her purse. Seriously, man, this is not a normal occurrence. You guys should just get this checked out. Yikes. I have more ghost stories, but this email is getting longer, lol. I'll save it for the next time. Anyways, my house is okay now, and we haven't heard a growl for a long time.
That's good.
And we haven't felt anything that's harmful. If we do, I'll definitely share it with y'all.
Okay, Facebook
Keep
Live.
doing what you're doing. Thanks for keeping me awake at work, Clarice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Seriously, that's is super creepy.
Disembodied sounds, they freak me out.
Maybe your parents, without you knowing, did something to the house to try and clean it. Because if you guys were experiencing something, just because they didn't say anything doesn't mean they weren't also experiencing something.
Yeah.
Sounds like a conversation to have when your parents are like a bit more amicable to the topic being brought up.
They'll just walk into the room like, "We have exorcised the demons.
This house is clear." But seriously, thank you for sending that. Please send us your other stories as well. We definitely want to hear them. So, right on.
Cool.
So thank you so much to everyone who sent your stories to storytime@scarish.com, which is our email address, or went over to our website, scarish.com, and filled out the contact us form, or hit us up on any of our social medias. We appreciate all the stories you folks send, especially when you let us share them. And even if you don't want them shared and just want to like bend someone's ear, we're here for that as well. Our Instagram is @ScarishPodcast, our Twitter is @ScarishPod, and our Facebook is facebook.com/ScarishPodcast. If anyone wanted to give us money, Robin, how can they do that?
You can go to patreon.com/scaryishpodcast. Those are monthly donations. Tiers start at $1. I have promotion for patrons right now going on, where you can get 10% off our Teespring store. The code is on there for patrons if you want to go. And I have a whole new horror icon series coming out for this upcoming season. So you can check out our Patreon to find out about all that stuff. And then there's coffee, ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast. And those are one-time donations. All those donations help us upgrade our studio setup and upgrade our computer and all that stuff we need to run this podcast.
Shout out to Asus and Republic of Gamer laptops. I'm going to do it every episode because I would not be able to do this show without it.
For that giveaway, the Scriptory also wants to let everyone know that a custom bracelet is going to get put in there too.
Oh, snap.
So
she just raised the ante.
Yeah, well, she made my bracelet here. It's really cute. I don't know. I don't even know how to show it. It's really cute. I really like it.
For those of you who are listening, it sounds amazing as well.
It's pretty, but maybe I'll post a picture on Instagram or something. But handmade jewelry stuff, so that's cool too.
Right on. And I really do think that's just about everything that we have for this week. So thank you to everyone who listened. Thank you to everyone who sent in their stories. Anyone who's thinking about doing it, send in your story right now. We appreciate them. And that's about it, right? So thank you so much. Robin, go ahead and send us out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.